The Bear Hunt Part 3. Jeremiah's bones ached as the adrenaline ebbed from his body. The night had finally gone still again, save for the rasp of Liam's breathing and the crackle of the fire. The dead bear's bulk lay on the porch like a monument to their narrow survival. The air, however, still felt wrong, thick with something unnameable, something that crawled under the skin. "Sarah, go inside. Make sure Liam's all right," Jeremiah muttered, his voice hoarse. "I'm fine," Liam groaned, wiping sweat from his brow. His face was still pale, but his eyes were clear, focused. "We need to deal with that." He pointed to the bear. Its body seemed unnatural, even in death. The way it had attacked, its sheer size and its persistence. Jeremiah knew it wasn't just hunger that had driven the creature. He could feel something darker at work. "Burn it," Jeremiah said, his voice tight with resolve. Liam raised an eyebrow. "We're not burying it?" "No, this isn't just a bear, Liam. There's something off about it. We can't let it fester in the ground." Jeremiah ran a hand through his graying hair. "Get what you need for a fire. I'll help." Sarah, still standing at the threshold of the cabin, stared at her father. "What about the rest of us? That thing wasn't the only one." Jeremiah stopped in his tracks. "What do you mean?" "I heard them," she said quietly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "When I was tending to Liam, in the trees. There's more out there, Papa." Liam froze, eyes wide. "More? You're sure?" Sarah nodded. "I heard them moving through the forest just before the attack. I thought it was the wind at first, but after the bear came, I knew something else is out there." A deep, cold dread filled Jeremiah's chest. The unnatural size of the bear, the eerie intelligence in its eyes, and now Sarah's revelation. They couldn't ignore the signs any longer. This wasn't a single rogue animal, it was something more, something darker that had settled over their land like a curse. "They'll come again," Sarah added, her green eyes flicking to the woods. "Soon." Jeremiah clenched his jaw, the weight of their predicament pressing down on him like a heavy cloak. The bear was only the beginning, and if there were more, the family wasn't prepared for another attack, not without help. "We're leaving," Jeremiah said, his voice firm and final. "Tonight." Liam and Sarah both looked at him in disbelief. "Papa, we can't just leave," Sarah argued. "This is our home. We can't run. We're not running." "We're regrouping," Jeremiah snapped. "We can't fight what we don't understand, and there's no way we'll survive another attack like tonight's. We go to town. We get help. We learn what we're up against. And then, we come back." Liam stood slowly, leaning heavily on his rifle. "Town's a full day's walk, Jeremiah. We're not gonna make it before sunrise. We don't have a choice. Whatever's out there, it's coming for us. We need to move." The decision made, the family gathered what little they could carry. Sarah packed a few meager supplies, some dried food, blankets, and extra ammunition, while Liam tightened the straps of his pack despite the pain in his arm. The wound was bad, but he refused to let it slow him down. Jeremiah grabbed his father's old hunting knife and the silver bullets he'd always kept in the cellar, relics from another time, for use against another kind of enemy. By the time they were ready, the moon had risen higher, casting a cold, ghostly glow over the forest. Jeremiah took one last look at the cabin, his heart heavy. This was their home, the place they had fought to build with their own hands. Abandoning it felt like surrender, but he knew that staying would be their death. "Let's go," he whispered, turning toward the dark path ahead. The woods swallowed them quickly, the tall pines looming over them like silent sentinels. Every step felt precarious, every sound a potential threat. Jeremiah's senses were on high alert, ears straining for the slightest hint of movement in the underbrush. He could feel it, the presence lurking just beyond their sight, always watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Hours passed as they trudged through the dense forest, the air growing colder with each passing minute. The moonlight barely penetrated the thick canopy above, leaving them in near darkness. The only sounds were their footsteps and the occasional rustle of leaves. And then, just as they reached the edge of a small clearing, Sarah froze. "Papa," she whispered, her voice trembling. Jeremiah turned, his heart pounding. "What is it?" Sarah pointed to the trees ahead. There, standing at the far end of the clearing, was a figure. At first, Jeremiah thought it was a man, but as the figure stepped closer, the truth became terrifyingly clear. It was no man at all. The creature stood on two legs, its body covered in matted black fur, but its face was wrong. It had the features of a bear, but twisted, almost human-like, its eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Jeremiah's stomach churned as the creature let out a low, guttural growl, its eyes fixed on them. It wasn't alone. Behind it, more figures emerged from the shadows, their hulking forms moving with unnatural fluidity. The forest had come alive with them. Liam raised his rifle, his hands shaking. "Jeremiah!" "Don't shoot," Jeremiah hissed. "Not yet." The creatures circled the clearing, watching them with predatory intent. They were testing them, waiting for them to make the first move. Jeremiah knew that if they fired a shot now, it would be the beginning of the end. "We move slowly," Jeremiah said under his breath, his voice calm despite the terror gripping him. "No sudden movements. We need to get to the other side of the clearing." Sarah's hand tightened around her rifle, her face pale but resolute. "What are they, Papa?" Jeremiah swallowed hard, his throat dry. "I don't know, but they're not bears." The creatures inched closer, their growls growing louder, more insistent. They were hungry, desperate. Jeremiah could feel the weight of their hunger pressing down on him, an almost tangible force. And then, without warning, one of them lunged. "Run!" Jeremiah shouted, raising his rifle and firing. The shot hit the creature square in the chest, but it barely slowed. It let out a furious roar, its long arms reaching for them as the others charged. The McKennas ran. Branches whipped at their faces, the ground uneven and treacherous beneath their feet. But they didn't stop. The creatures were right behind them, their snarls and growls growing louder with each passing second. Jeremiah could hear their heavy footsteps, feel the heat of their breath on the back of his neck. They burst through the tree line, stumbling onto a rocky outcrop overlooking the river far below. The drop was steep, too steep to climb down quickly, but there was no other way. The creatures were closing in. "Jump," Jeremiah ordered, his voice ragged. Liam hesitated for only a moment before grabbing Sarah's arm and pulling her toward the edge. They leaped, disappearing over the side. Jeremiah fired one last shot at the creatures before following, the ground falling away beneath him as he plunged into the darkness below. The cold, rushing river swallowed him whole. The McKennas had escaped, but the hunt had only just begun. Whatever those creatures were, they wouldn't stop until they had what they wanted. And the McKenna family, now bound by a curse older than the mountains themselves, would have to face the terror head-on or be consumed by it. The river carried them away, but not far enough. In the depths of the forest, something ancient stirred, and it was coming for them. Thank you for watching. Get alerts for new stories by clicking subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell and hit all so you don't miss the next episode.